Hello everyone, this is going to be the video that's going to be discussing exam 1. So let me first describe how exam 1 is going to work out, okay? I've got some notes here, so don't mind if I'm looking down, okay? Exam 1, okay? It is going to be timed, 2 hours, 12 questions, okay? So it means about, 10 minutes a question, okay? All the problems are going to be randomized. Okay, so no two tests should look alike. Okay, so that means if you just so happen to know somebody else in the class and you open up your tests right next to each other, chances are very high that no two questions are going to be exactly the same. Okay, and that's by design. Okay. In terms of what's going to be on the test, it's everything from chapter 2 and chapter 3. Some specifics in terms of the problems themselves on exam 1. If the problem says to estimate or prove numerically, in particular the ones with the limits that say find the limit numerically or estimate the limit for blah blah blah, right? Make sure you use either your graphs or the tables that I've provided during chapter 2, those where you approach X from both sides, right? Make sure you use that or use the graphs and justify it that way. If the problem says to evaluate, okay, make sure that you show your work algebraically, like all the numbers, all the calculations, all your computations should add up to the same thing, right? More so than anything, make sure you follow the directions, okay? Lots of times, some of the problems, this is the most common, where it's just people didn't follow directions. Some of the questions that you might get will be, find the derivative of this function using the limit definition, right? And people still use the shortcuts. So instead of doing the limit as h approaches 0 of f of x plus h minus f of right, they just say, oh, it's just drop the minus 1 and then we move on, right? That is not by the definition of the derivative, right? So make sure you follow the directions, okay? What else is there? You will need to submit proof of your work. So under your exams categories, right, there's also going to be an exam 1 write-up. Okay, so every problem that you do, all 12 problems, will require you to show me proof, right, of that you did it, essentially, right? And you must submit it, okay? And you must submit it within 15 minutes of the end of your test, okay? If you fail to do so, I will heavily hamper your grade, okay? And that's happened before. The reason why is because there's very little for me. This is like you guys have seen at this point, right? This is an online class. There's not very much for me to keep you all honest with the course material, okay? So that's why I have to do the time, okay? The 2-hour time, okay? This has happened before. A student, takes the full 2 hours for their test and does not submit a write-up until 2.5 hours, 3 hours later, okay? And these students have gotten pretty darn close to zeros on their tests. I need to make sure that you are the one doing the work and that you are doing it in a timely manner. Like I said, the only way I can do that is by really enforcing a time limit, okay? And then one last thing, when you do your exam, right? Exam 1 grade is a grade. It is not the grade, okay? I will announce when my grading for the exam is done, so you guys can look through the comments and sort of verify within yourselves, should I get more points for this? Should I not get more points for this? And that's perfectly fine, okay? But I will announce it, okay? Just because you got 120 on the test doesn't mean that the 120 is going to fly. I still need to look at your write-ups, okay? And from there, I get to deduct points, okay? Now, I will say usually points aren't deducted, they are usually added. Okay. And the reason why is because the exam one is going to be done on the online system, right? And the online system only looks at it as right or wrong, and it'll give you the 10 points, right? More often than not, what tends to happen is the write-up, the student writes out everything completely correct, absolutely perfect, and then when they transfer it over onto the online system, they add a space, okay, or they forget a negative, right? And because the online system says, oh, that's not exactly what the answer is, it's wrong. Okay, so what tends to happen for those problems is I look at your write-up. That's also the other point for the write-up. I look at your write-up and say, oh, wait, this person did it entirely correct. They just forgot to put in the negative. 9.5 out of 10. Okay, so that is exam one. Okay, now let me move on to the practice exam. Okay, the practice exam, okay, the way I made the practice exam is this. I made the exam first, and then I copied the exam and made it the practice exam, okay? For the practice exam, you have 3 attempts, okay? Take these 3 attempts as if you were taking the test, okay? Find a nice, quiet spot without any distractions where you can sit for 2 hours and do the test, okay? It is exactly like the test. So there are no hints, no videos. I know that some of the homework assignments that I've provided, they have help videos. They have like additional examples, right? All of that is turned off. There is no help on the practice exam, right? And on the exam itself, okay? And there is no proof required for the practice exam, okay? Take the practice exam as if you were taking the exam. So you have 3 attempts. Find a nice spot, whether it be at home, on your desk, on the coffee table, at a local Starbucks or a local Pete's, somewhere where you have internet access and you can sit down for 2 hours to take the test. Okay. This also gives you an attempt, a try, or some time to really find a nice spot. Make sure that you don't lose internet access. Make sure that everything's quiet, that you're allowed to do work at this place for 2 straight hours, okay? The only thing that's left for me to explain is due dates. The practice exam is going to be open until midnight Friday, okay? And I made the exam due on Saturday. Usually people tend to have a whole lot more free time on a Saturday. Yeah, okay. Like I said, it is timed, okay? 2 hours, okay? Once the clock starts, it will not stop. So use the 3 attempts from the practice exam to find yourself a good spot to test out locations that can allow you to work for 2 hours nonstop and that you won't lose internet access, okay? I have to be really, really strict with that 2 hour time limit. It's, like I said, the only way I can combat academic dishonesty, if there is any, with any of you, okay? Yeah, I think that's it. I think if there are any questions, I am, doing my office hours Monday through Thursday from 12 to 2 on Zoom. I'm pretty good at answering emails, okay? Just send me something if you still have concerns, okay? Besides that, good studying. I'll see you guys around.